It's wonderful to see so many people gathering on such a beautiful spring day, and we have even more friends on the Zoom webinar with us. So I'm David Brigham. I'm the librarian and CEO here at the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. And I just have a couple quick housekeeping items and then a few quick comments. The housekeeping items are for those of you online. We are in webinar mode, which means that you can see us, but we cannot see or hear you. Second, on Zoom, we have enabled closed captioning. So if you'd like to see the simultaneous translation into words, you can do that by clicking the CC button on the taskbar at the bottom. We are recording this evening's event, and we'll send it out to everyone who has registered. So whether you're in the room or whether you're on Zoom, you'll receive an email tomorrow with a recording of the program so you can watch it again. This is a very exciting time for HSP. We are celebrating our 200th anniversary, as you can see from our logo. To do so, we are collaborating with 5 partner organizations, and through those partnerships, we're highlighting 5 key themes in our collections of nearly 22 million manuscripts, books, and works of art. The products will be 5 document exhibits in the Information Commons. The one that we've done in partnership with the Association for Public Art is on view and will continue to be so through this evening. And we're also hosting 5 signature lectures, which you know because you're here for the first one. Our broad theme, our category in which this all fits, is called The Soul of America, Literary, Performing, and Visual Arts. In this area, it might surprise you to know that HSP has over 300,000 works of art on paper, prints, drawings, and photographs. And we think that makes us the largest art collection in the city of Philadelphia. In addition, no one's challenged us on that, so we're still in the we think, though, mode. In addition, HSP is home to the institutional records of many visual and performing arts organizations, including the Association for Public Art. We're very proud to be the steward for this important archive and delighted to work with the APA to organize the current exhibition and to co-sponsor tonight's signature lecture by Xenobia Bailey. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to invite to the podium my colleague, Charlotte Cohen, the Executive Director of the APA, to introduce our speaker.
Adjustment for me. Thank you, David, and the entire staff here at HSP for your partnership and support in this wonderful partnership that we've created. The Association for Public Art has been operating for over 150 years, working with artists to bring their artwork to Philadelphia and the world is in our DNA. From our founding in 1872 to the hundreds of artists in the 3 exhibitions explored in the exhibition downstairs, to Xenobia Bailey's commissioned banners that are hanging right outside the front door and on the wall right here, we have always engaged with artists, and it's their imagination that helps us see our world differently and deeply and discover histories we may not have known, as Xenobia is doing in her work. I love Xenobia's banner image, and it really struck me hard when I first saw it because it captures so much that is beautiful about the history of Philadelphia. It represents the accomplished and gifted Black entrepreneurs and citizens who must be better known. And it also makes us keenly aware of their lack of recognition and inclusion in official historic storytelling. We seek to close that gap, and it is artists like Xenobia who help us do that. Linda Good Bryant, the artist, activist, and founder of Just Above Midtown Gallery, which represented Black artists when no one else would, describes being, quote, radically Black as being truthful about the way you see things, even when it differs from the way most people see it. Being informed and willing to discuss, debate, and implement social and political strategies based on what would likely be the most effective rather than the most expedient, end quote. And this is the space in which to do that work together, a place that holds the precious history of so many people. Xenobia Bailey has been exploring what she calls the history of Philadelphia's radical Black elite. And this evening, we will be hearing about what she has learned and how it relates to her artistic practice. Before she begins, I'd like to share some background information about Xenobia. Not only does she explore and celebrate African diasporic cultures through her artwork, Zenobia's vivid and detailed crocheted creations frequently feature patterns, colors, and symbols drawn from Eastern African and Native American customs, resulting in a visual mosaic that captures the diversity of various cultures. By presenting her artwork through the lens of African culture, blending elements of science fiction, fantasy, and history, Xenobia expands the narrative of Afrofuturism beyond the confines of mainstream Western culture. Through her practice, she invites viewers to envision a future that is inclusive, vibrant, and deeply rooted in the traditions and experiences of marginalized communities. Xenobia is known for her crocheted hats, large mandalas, and sculptural installations created from yarn. Yet she works in many media, as you will soon see, making works that are of a functional domestic nature, situated in a craft tradition, as well as one of the most amazing and large-scale public artworks of recent years. Her functional vibrations mosaic at the 34th Street Hudson Yards subway station in New York City. Xenobia studied ethnomusicology at the University of Washington and industrial design at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. She has been artist in residence at the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Society for Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh, and the Marie Walsh Sharp Foundation in New York City. Her work has been exhibited at the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Jersey City Museum, the New Museum of Contemporary Art, and the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, among others. Her work is in the permanent collections at Harlem Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture and the Allentown Art Museum, the Museum of Contemporary Arts, and the Museum of Arts and Design. I am very happy to welcome her to speak with us and to note that it's the first time Xenobia has shown or discussed her artwork publicly here in Philadelphia, making this yet another first for Philadelphia. Now, please help me in welcoming Xenobia Bailey.
Thank you. Am I allowed to have this water up here like this? Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Can you hear me? Good. I cannot hear myself, but thank you all for coming. My practice is I come with a deeply rooted belief in the transformation and power of underserved African Americans to design their own material culture for health and well-being, to heal and support the generations of trauma, of lost culture and ethical identity that has been socially engineered, disempowered African American ancestry captured in the Atlantic slave trade. My practice is I refer to it as functional design because of pretty much how it came together. So I'm going to take you through a little development of my practice. These are my parents. My mother is from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my father is from Lubbock, Texas. And they were born in the 1920s, and they migrated separately. They didn't come up to Seattle together, but they met there and got married and had us. My mother was a domestic worker, but she was a domestic worker beyond imagination. She was extremely creative. She had really well math skills. And she could recycle things in a way that you would not know that it had been recycled. And pretty much her domestic skills, back then, domestic workers, they did event planning for the families. They would do formal dinners and weddings, and along with the social care of the household and cleaning. So this is, and my mother and father were raised on sharecropping properties down in Texas and Oklahoma. And what I created is a character called Sister Paradise because I had to take the trauma a little bit out of the past. My parents did not have a childhood. I think they had their childhood through us, their children. And I had to create this mythological character. um, she's a rural and urban character. Her name is Sister Paradise. I crocheted her garment. She has an apron on and a dress and a crown, and I adorned her broom, which is very magical. And this is Sister Paradise. She's a visionary. She's a visionary and a creative person. Um, the aesthetic, I'm from Seattle, Washington, and we had a very multicultural community. The majority of the people of color were segregated into one basic community in Seattle, the Central District. It was the African American community, Chinese community, Japanese community, the Filipino community, the Native American, the Pacific Islanders, and we all celebrated our cultures. And one of the most dynamic groups that came out of Seattle is the Chinese Girls Drill Team, which was created to create pride for Chinese girls, because back then, and maybe a little before that, Chinese girls, when they were born, they were being killed in China. And this is something, because a lot of these girls are first generation Americans. So the community leader, Ruby Chow, she created this girls drill team, which inspired me too to be as strong an African American as they were Chinese American. And their costumes were designed by the Chinese opera. Ruby Chow was born in, her and her husband were born in China, but they left and came to Seattle and really were a dynamic presence in the Chinese community. This is me before I discovered crochet. You know, pretty much before college, I'm, going by the jewelry that I had on. But and this is me after I discovered my muse in me, and it pretty much came from the experience in my community and just interacting with different things and my imagination. Our family lived nearby Washington Park that had an amazing Japanese tea garden in it. And us children used to play in this garden. And they never ran us out of there. We were just loud and getting pollywogs and frogs and all in the water and everything. But they never ran us out of the park, the tea garden. But they had a tea house where they did perform the tea ceremony there. And I never did go into the ceremony because I knew it was very serious. It just, didn't look like fun like we were having in the park. But later I decided that when I was an adult, I would go and be a part of attend a tea ceremony. So this is a tea house. This whole garden was dedicated. It was made for Seattle from Japan. It wasn't anything that was kind of, they cultivated and did everything from, master gardeners came. I can't think of, well, anyway, it was pretty much created by the community in Japan. So last year was my very first time that I attended a Japanese tea ceremony after all these years. So it was very educational. I had learned a little bit about the tea ceremony and the purpose of it, that it was really a cultivating practice. This is what made Japan's culture be what it was. This tea ceremony was designed for the monks. So they would go into these 8-hour meditations, 8 to 9 hour meditations, and they would fall asleep. But one of the monks designed this whole tea ceremony where the tea would keep them awake through the 8 and 9 hour meditation. So when they were through, and they would go anywhere that they wanted to in the garden and just meditate. And then when they would finish their meditation, they would write these scriptures and design architecture. Their whole culture pretty much came from this. So this was an inspiration for one of my major pieces, Sister Paradise's Great Wall of Fire Revival Tent. And this is based on the African American revival tents that we would have revival services out in the country, or praise house where sharecroppers would have their religious or spiritual services on the sharecropping property, and the Japanese tea ceremony. I with a family, that Liberian family, they're dual citizens, African American in Liberia. Their family were one of the families that was colonized back in the 1817s to go back to Liberia because the United States decided too many free Africans in North America. So they started sending them back to Liberia, but they were colonizing Liberia, and they sent an African American president. The United States elected that president and sent them back to Liberia. So this friend of mine, his family was part of one of those groups that went back to Liberia, and they have a tea plantation, a coffee plantation. They raise bees, and so I created this. I blended these different teas for different kind of gatherings. It's supposed to be an African American tea ceremony for trauma and for mental health, and we just kind of, we're in the process of designing this tea ceremony. I was an intern at a community repertory Black theater in Seattle called Black Arts West. I was interning as a costume designer, but our plays were they were contemporary playwrights that were writing these plays. But the majority of the costumes that I was doing, I was not designing. I was going to the secondhand store and buying clothing. But at the same time, I was studying costume design at the University of Washington. And all the other students that I was going to school with, they were designing all these beautiful costumes with beautiful fabric and everything. And I was doing these urban aesthetics, and my creativity was kind of like backing up in me. This is a plantation, slave quarters on a plantation down in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's a big tourist attraction, these former plantations in the South. And I like to go check them out to kind of check out and see, what some of these slave quarters look like. And there are photographs of my mother's home when she was in on the sharecropping. And this house is luxury compared to what my mother was raised in. It was when it rained outside, it rained inside, and it was not conducive for humans to live in, but they did. But this is a photograph of the G's Ben quilters. They too were on sharecropping property, pretty much just like my parents were raised. The owners of the sharecroppers abandoned the property after emancipation, and they just pretty much stayed there. But this is kind of how a lot of the aesthetic, and this is where I kind of discovered the aesthetic of funk as how the G's Ben quilt makers would piece together these textiles to make these amazing quilts, and they're considered fine art now. So this is one of my favorite inspirational artists, Aaron Douglas. He was during what they so-called the Harlem Renaissance, which, there's a whole nother story about that. Harlem Renaissance really started in Philadelphia. But yeah, so this is one of his paintings, and I like how he had such vision in his future projection of African Americans in North America. This is a visionary outsider artist, James Hampton. He was born in April 8th, 1909, and passed away November 4th, 1964. He was a janitor. He was not an artist. And this is full scale. I don't have anything in the photograph to show the scale of it, but it's all made out of recycled material, pretty much the same way I practice now. But the title of it is The Throne of the Third Heaven of the Nation's Millennium and General Assembly. He too pretty much wrote scriptures and narratives for his work. This is all made out of recycled cardboard and aluminum foil. And you can see that it's at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. They have a whole area of just outsider African American art. And this is a piece, I did this. This is like my treasure chest. And this is made out of a cigar box. When we were little, we used to treasure cigar boxes, and I still do. I found this place not really too far from here. In fact, it's a half a block from here that sits out a table in front of, it's a cigar store, and they sit out these cigar boxes, and you can buy them for a couple of dollars. And you know what happened with me? Yeah, I started collecting these cigar boxes because they still feel like treasures to me. But anyway, this is made out of, I took a lot of fashion magazines because they have the best paper quality. The quality of paper is really good, plus the colors are really nice. So I made the flowers and the branches and the nest for this egg. I have a brown egg with a pattern of Africa made in glitter, and then me on the back with text from the magazines, but that's my head. It's not, I just used one of the garments that was in the magazine. But this is a treasure box that I made. This hasn't even been seen. Maybe it was seen one time at the Studio Museum of Harlem. I showed it. So I would do exercises with the recycled newspapers and wine cork from wine bottles and champagne bottles. I was going to do this thing whenever anybody got married. I would make the bride a pair of earrings from the bottles of champagne, and then the newspaper that would announce their marriage and stuff like that. I never did. I did it one time, but once enough. And this is, I was putting together, I was just experimenting with this. I never used it, but this is for a wedding cake. I'm kind of vegan and I'm not into a lot of sugar. So the flowers, these recycled flowers from the magazines were the adornment. And this is an altar that I made. It's from the boxes from Costco, grocery store, brown paper bags, newspapers, fashion magazines, and just stuff just to make the adornments with. I was doing a project with Creative Times at Boys and Girls High School. It was incorporated with the Weeksville Society in Brooklyn, but this was the students in the school were designing, I had them designing a chair, a table, and a bookshelf. And the interesting thing about the students at Boys and Girls High, it's in Bed-Stuy. So a lot of the African American it's a very mixture of ethnic groups of Black folks in there. There's Jamaicans, there's Haitian, there's Trinidadians, and then there's the do or die Bed-Stuy folks. But but everybody pretty much designed, and Senegalese and, you know, and Nigerians. So all the students, and this is what I wanted to happen, but I didn't tell them to do it, but they all pretty much designed, and you could see their cultural aesthetic in their design. This piece right here, these pieces right here was designed by the Senegalese student. This is designed by the Haitian student. And this is designed by the Bed-Stuy student. And this is designed from a student from the South. She was, and this is the cardboard is from a Ben and Jerry ice cream container. And then it was covered with fashion magazine, and in the interior is aluminum foil with LED light bulb. And the LED light bulb was the most expensive thing in this whole project. And this Chase Lounge was made from cardboard cylinders from fabric stores and Ben and Jerry ice cream containers, the cardboard from the ice cream containers. And the draping is from recycled plastic bags, garbage bags, bags from the grocery store, just any kind of recycled bags that we could get. We kind of spun them and crocheted with them. This is a desk that was created by boxes and from Costco. And this is a room, one of the rooms in the Weeksville house that we kind of gave it a surface design with the newspaper, and then the altar is there, and then the doorway, see the doorway. And then we made a quilt out of New York Times. The New York Times you have to use the New York Times for the quilt because they're long, they're very long. And you can make a double-sized quilt with that. Plus, this quilt is supposed to be sewn onto a sheet just to give it warmth. But we did this just as an exercise. But then I found out when this house was opened for exhibition that this was actually practiced. The people in sharecropping communities, they did make quilts this way. Then I did a residency at the John Michael Kohler Art Center in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and I created a Utopia Lab where I was working with the most magical people on the planet, public art school teachers. And, and like, they went wild in that class. And we were making these funky, magical persona hats. I had a young, one of the children that was helping me put the bases of these hats together. The bases were made out of newspaper because we wanted to have the bases prepared so when everybody came to the workshop, all they had to do was adorn the hats. So these are some of the art school teachers. They're so magical. And this is another art school teacher. And then I was working with women and their children from these shelters. This is from, I was there for about a couple of days, and I told them I wanted to do all these different workshops with these different groups. And they were making crowns for themselves and their children. And this is another mother. And then I wanted to work with some senior citizens in one of the senior citizens' homes, and they did. The man in the middle in the wheelchair, they were saying this is the first time he ever smiled, and like he made this crown, and he was just smiling all during the workshop. And then we worked with the little wizards. These are children from the elementary school. And they were the only ones that their hats transformed them. They turned into all these different characters. The one on your left with the cards on it, he's a magician. And he was doing all kind of magic tricks for me. And the one in the middle, he wants to be a chef. And the one in on the other side, he stole my tape. And then he came up and showed me it. And they turned into instant pirates and just went into play action. And then, make-believe action. And then I was working with a group. This is another residency in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the working classroom. And we were doing, this is for the Day of the Dead, and we were preparing for the Day of the Dead, but we wanted to make a room-size altar for all the children that had died from childhood diseases like diabetes and whatever. So we were getting all the boxes once again from Costco, but I wanted all the main assignment for this was the aesthetic had to be like the aesthetic of the architecture of New Mexico, which is about the only place that I've seen that maintains the cultural aesthetic in their architecture in the United States. This is a Mexican-American aesthetic. There's a different aesthetic that they have in the architecture in Mexico from what they have in New Mexico. So we were making, like usual, everything out of newspaper. We were building the skeletons. We started building up the altars, and then the kids would come in with all this junk food, from McDonald's. And I said, don't throw anything away. Everything's going in the installation. And they said, okay. So they started making these statistics, writing these statistics about the number of children that had died from this food and stuff. And this is the installation completed. And they really do go out with Day of the Dead. This was during Halloween. This is what they do for Halloween in the Mexican community. And this is when my work was in Elle magazine. Elle had just came to the United States. And when I saw the magazine on the newsstand for the first time, I saw an African American model on the cover, and she had this African jewelry on. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to contact them," because I knew that they would be receptive to me and my work. So, excuse me, I put together. I had a lot of hats that I was doing a lot of experimenting with. This is how I was experimenting with colors and compositions and the 3D designing and just working with the silhouette of the African American woman. And so I put together my portfolio, and I Xeroxed it, and I sent it to several fashion magazines. Elle was the first one that responded to me. And 3 days after I sent it out, they sent back they called me up and said, come down here and bring everything you have. And ever since then, I was in Elle magazine for 3 years, every fall and winter, because that's when my hats were warmer hats. But one of the reasons why I did this was because I needed advertisement for my hats. And at this time, I think a full color page of Elle magazine was $190,000 for a full page. And I would get like 3 full color pages sometimes. And, and also they would put the names and the addresses of the shops that were carrying my merchandise. So it was a real good PR. Plus, a lot of people started contacting me for different things, and shops would start calling me to carry my wares. And I started getting into some spiritual headpieces. This is Shango. It could be a man's or a woman's headpiece. This is the amazing artist, Derek Faulkner. We used to share studio. Had studios in the same building up in Harlem until the building closed down. And this is one of some other experimental sculpture pieces, because I'm still working on developing this aesthetic of funk. And then my color studies. And one of my instructors when I was in school in light, color, and design said if you use more than 3 colors in a piece, it's unsophisticated. So I would use 7 colors. Then this is Brooks Brother had this line of clothing, this wool that they did. It didn't last that long. It lasted about a year. It was called Black Sheep. And I wasn't commissioned to do this, but when I saw it, I wanted to start experimenting with designing headpieces that would go with this collection. So I did these headpieces, and it was a good exercise. And from Elle magazine, that's when the Academy Award winning Ruth Carter contacted me to do hats for Spike Lee's films. This is one of his first films that came out of Hollywood, was Do the Right Thing, or School Days was before this. It must have been the second one. But anyway, one of Spike Lee's films. And she wanted me to make a blackety black crocheted hat. And that's what I did for Samuel L. Jackson. I did about 3 of them. Some of the images on in the film, you can see the hats in the background on the shelves. And this top hat is made out of buffalo wool. I found this herder that he sells buffalo wool, and this is an eagle feather in his. So this is a very indigenous, North American indigenous headpiece. But I want to do a whole series off of just using this buffalo wool, because it's not dyed or any kind of, putting any kind of addition. It was just the buffalo wool itself. It's a very strong, unusual wool. Then I was doing, I don't like to really buy my clothes because I really don't see myself in the stores, but this was a series of Buffalo Girl dresses, and it was kind of inspired. But also during this year, there were no oranges. I could not find orange yarn. You couldn't find orange fingernail polish for some reason. And this is when Reagan was in office. I don't know what it was, but we couldn't find orange. So all the clothes I was making that year I had to do 2-tones. That's how the Buffalo Girls got kind of started. And these are like formal wear. The shorter one is the one that I used to wear for openings and stuff. And then I did a series with these poets. During the late 90s, there was a really big movement of these amazing poets. And these are 2 poets, Lisa Jessie Peterson, she's from Philadelphia, and Tiss Benson is from Texas. And I did their costumes. These are all crocheted costumes, because whenever I would go to these poetry readings, I wanted to see more visuals. They would just get up to the mic and start doing this powerful reading, and I wanted to see a little bit more character. So I did some of the costumes for about 4 or 5 poets, and they did a series. And Lisa is doing poetry with her piece. This is Merlina, a wizard, urban wizard. That she created. And this is Nick Caves, that I did an artist in residency with him at the Atlantic Center for the Arts down in Florida, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And he was the one that really taught me. I went to that residency with a box full of crocheted circles, squares. I didn't know what to do. All I knew to do was just keep on crocheting these bits and pieces. But one of the things that I loved about the residency with him is he would find all these secondhand stores all over Florida, and he would be, they give the instructors these cars, and he would be hauling us all to these secondhand stores, and I would get lost, and he would come back with all these different things that you would never even think could go into a piece of art, a masterful piece of art. But it was really wonderful to see, because pretty much everything he does comes from recycled material. And this is an example of the elements that I came to that residency with, all these different little shapes. All I knew how to do was just do these circles, squares, triangles. And then Nick Cave, all of a sudden, he just took some of the squares out of the boxes and he started composing them on the wall. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And so from that point on, I knew the direction that I needed to take all these pieces. I had a whole box full of these shapes and stuff. So this was kind of gave me a direction on my cosmic tapestries. These are kind of like mandalas, points of concentration for meditation, something that could go along with the tea ceremony, the medicinal and mental health tea ceremony for the African American community. This is Blue Magic, a shapeshifter. She's a cosmic conductor of the universe. And this is Trilogy. And this is Bit by Bit, Little by Little. This is Aretha Frank. I started putting 45 records on them because, you know, the 45s were circular, and I like the ones that had Atlantic on the Atlantic label because we were brought here through the Atlantic Ocean. So this is Aretha Franklin's Think. This is Benny King's Supernatural Thing. This is James Brown's Popcorn on his label. This is a really nice piece. And this is Where Did Our Love Go? And this is when I did a piece for Absolute Vodka. And this was supposed to have been smaller, but when I started working, it just started getting bigger and bigger. And this is the size of it. You know, it was bigger than me. And I called them up. I said, this thing is bigger than me. They said, keep going, keep going. And this is a piece I did for Facebook headquarters in New York City. This is the engineer's floor. That place is amazing. The engineer's floor, they have all the food in the world, number one. So I was constantly eating. Plus, I could take the food home with me. But they had artwork all over it, chess sets. Like, I mean, it was a very good place. And plus, I would leave there at 11 o'clock at night because like I was working really long. I usually work late hours. So when I would leave, there were still engineers still there working, you know? And I did one, it was pretty much a whole wall, but it was kind of broken up between these different rooms and stuff. But the engineers appreciate it because I would see they would have these long equations that would be written out on these whiteboards. I didn't know what they were, but I started composing these mandalas on the wall, like the engineers were writing these long equations with all these numbers and circles and boxes and stripes and everything. And so I was talking to them, and I was saying, you know, they were telling me that they really liked the work because they could kind of relate to it. I said, well, I didn't know what I was doing. And they would say, we didn't know what we're doing either. So, you know, that was a moment with my engineer, the common grounds with engineers at Facebook. And then I started working with these, creating these modular furniture pieces. They kind of start out the same way that the hats start out, but it's the way that you fold them. I started making them miniature mock-ups and prototypes, working with the Barbie dolls because I am going to put them in narratives, these story narratives. And this is the way that my mother used to do our house. She used to go to the secondhand store and buy these Afghan quilts and crocheted Afghans. And my mother didn't do crocheting or knitting or quilting, but she did sew everything. She sewed all of our clothes and everything. And she had these scrap boxes. So she would drape all of our furniture, which a lot of it was secondhand, with these Afghans because she wanted to maintain a certain kind of aesthetic. And I mean, the first time that I came home from going to Pratt and I saw our living room, it looked like an installation, an art installation. Because like before, it just looked like a whole bunch of furniture draped over this Afghan. So I started this project over the pandemic. It's straight out of this world. And it was for all the people that we lost during the pandemic and their prints. And then I created these with the high chairs for the children that were born during the pandemic. And this is another this is another high chair this is a crocheted tablecloth, but it just made the statement for the new life that was coming into the world during the pandemic. And this is a piece that I did. A photograph of the clouds. I used converted the color sky into black and white. And this chair is draped. with an Afghan, and I crocheted a piece out of threads, and then I scanned it and digitized and put it in on the head of the chair to make it look like a gungun. And this is Sister Paradise, a version of Sister Paradise in the cosmos. And another Sister Paradise. See, any of my friends that would drop by my studio, they'd instantly turn into models. So, you know, whether they wanted to or not, I do all kind of promising. And this is a piece that I did for Seattle, one of Seattle's municipal buildings for their cultural department. This is two walls, and you can see the mystic is carrying a mountain goat, and they're very indigenous to Seattle. So I wanted it to have an African American indigenous identity that come from the Pacific Northwest. And this is one of the other walls, and with Sister Paradise and a sprouting young one. And then the floor, the flowers in this floor, these Asian women have a space in the marketplace, the Pike Street Marketplace, and they sell the most beautiful flowers. So these are the flowers from their bin, and I mean, they would sell these big bouquets of flowers for like $5, $10. You can always have flowers in your house. And this is the room that it was in, two walls and the floor. It's vinyl digital that I created. This environment is like a corner of paradise. And and okay. And this is a wallpaper that I designed. And these are another modular furnitures that I did with the Barbie dolls, more modular furnitures. These are all crocheted, single stitch and sculpted. And then I did this series. I'm working on these narratives. This is RuPaul. This is a doll of RuPaul. She's an elder storyteller and a singer storyteller, and she has all these stories that she tells to the young children. But all the children you see, they have the power sign raised, and that she's empowering them with her stories. And this is the Hudson Yards proposal for the Hudson Yards. This was before the ground was even broken. And this is my proposal for the installation for the Hudson Yards. It was 6 individual structures, mosaic structures that went in. This is one entrance of the subway. It had 2 mosaics. And then the second one had another mosaic. And then this is at Stephen Mayotta was the fabricator, and this is up at his studio, picking out all the different colors. We had to match all these glass chips to go into the mosaic. Uh, I enjoyed this because he must have had a million different colors. You know, I wanted to wear all of them, but he just, you know, I really wanted to change the design because I didn't know I had options to put some of the things that he had in there. And so this is me up in the studio looking at the mock-up of one of the installation pieces, and this is the final installation piece of one of the mosaic pieces in the subway. This is another um, public art piece down in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's called Spa Beach. It's on a pier. This is the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library in Washington, D.C. These are circular metal rings with 26 gauge copper wire crochet in the center of it. And this is the ceiling of it. It's digital ceiling. It's a digital canvas, but the black and blue is abstracted images of the March on Washington. And this is a piece that I did for National Black Theater up in Harlem. They're building a new, amazing new facility up there, and they wanted me to design design around the building. And this is the image of Barbara Ann Tier, one of my inspirations, because she just took the boundaries out of being an artist and just went straight for the soul, you know? And so I incorporated her in this design and maintain the this aesthetic using the crochet work. This is another example of it. You can see how the abstract pieces are coming together. I try to put everything that she spoke of and that she kind of incorporated into my practice in this piece. We're having a problem here. But yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to and okay. So what I would do is I would crochet these crochet strips, and then I would scan them, and then I would recompose them in Photoshop, and to really get, you know, it's amazing what you could do, because otherwise I would have to embroider this. But, you know, working with the Photoshop to kind of reassemble what I wanted to have, it just takes a little bit of practice. And plus I had to doing it on my scan scanner. They had to be a certain size. I couldn't make a really long one, so I had to do this kind of reinventing and assembling things that weren't really as large as they or long as they may look. And she's getting tired. Okay, it's okay. Okay, okay. And this is my cash cow, my black radical elite super power socks. Made these. The white part is, you know, when I was in drill team, the drill master told us that we shouldn't wear socks that have any kind of dye on it around our toes or anything because it could cause some kind of problem. So that's part I wanted to leave white. These are cotton. So the other parts were dyed, and they can be worn inside out, or, you know, and it has a little, can be pushed down. I have a pair of socks on now. And this here is Brother Mustafa. He's an amazing book dealer. He sells his books on the street on 36th Street in Harlem, right across the street from the Harlem Hospital and right across the street from the Schomburg Library. And this is where I found the book on James Fortin. I never heard of this man before, but when I saw this book on his table, I was, you know, because I never saw a black man that looked like this with ships, these tall sail ships on it. Because usually when I see a black person in ships, it's about slavery. So I saw this black man, this well-dressed black man with these ships, and I asked, well, who is this? And so he started telling me. He knows all about all the books that he has on his table. Plus, he has a lot of first editions and signed autograph books. So anyway, he told me about the book, so I bought it, and it just blew my socks off. And, you know, he told me that he was from Philadelphia, and at the time I had a studio. My studio was in Philadelphia. So I took it home. This dear friend of mine, this artist writer friend of mine, sent me an email stating that she told me about this research um, fellowship that was being offered by the Center for Crafts. And she said that I should apply for it. It was for under recognized craftspeople. And I was thinking about, you mean I could research this man? You know, because like he was making sales. That's a craft. And I'm a fiber artist. It goes right along with what I do. Plus, it was such an important occupation because he was working during the time of the wars between England and the United States, and plus, he was just well, anyway, I applied and I got the fellowship, and so I started working on the research. And this man, how many people have heard about this James Fortin in the room? Okay, and you must be all from Philadelphia. Okay. Well, I've never heard of him. And the majority, and I know Philadelphians that had never heard of him before, but had this, not only did I find out about this amazing man, but I found out that he came from a community of 20,000 Black radical elites. They had, I don't know if I can go into him, because if I do, I'm gonna be here all night and I'll start preaching. But they all were pretty much affiliated with the powerful Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Philadelphia. And it was a dynamic institution for organizing and fulfilling the needs of free Africans and freedom-seeking Africans, founded by Richard Allen in 1794. This is way before emancipation. This is one of the sanctuaries along the Underground Railroad, hosted by, and it hosted the first Negro convention, the first national Negro convention in the 1830s for free and freedom-seeking Africans. So this was something that I was trying to figure out, like, how come this isn't sounding, I've heard of Richard Allen, but I didn't hear all this other information about Mother Bethel church, how it was such, I mean, they had financial institutions, like they had academic programs, and at the same time, the Museum of American Revolution was creating an exhibit of the Fortin family. So I was really very fortunate to be able to be in contact with the curators, and then they brought the author, Julie. Oh God, I can't think of her name. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, Julie Wentz, thank you so much. They brought her over here, and I got to meet her, and our faces almost meshed. We were just all in each other's faces discussing this man and this community. So not only was this a very dynamic community, but they had their own press. They were printing their own books, their own magazines, and this is the Banneker notes and from the debate and lecture Banneker Institution. And what they were doing, this is here at the in this building that we're at right now. This a document, after I was reading it for a while, is I was discovering that they were decolonizing the sciences in North America. They were making it more of a, since Benjamin Banneker put together the Farmer's Almanac, and a lot of these people were agricultural people, so they had to live by the almanac. They were kind of extending, that was a continuum of what was going on with the development of the almanac. So they were re-examining mathematics and the cosmos and everything in here. I mean, I have to keep reading this over and over, because sometimes it's handwritten, so it's kind of hard to read the writing sometimes. But then too, it's kind of hard to comprehend actually what they're doing, what they were doing way back then, and they were just creating their own academia. And this here is William Stills. He was one of the main conductors on the Underground Railroad. This friend of mine from Philadelphia, who I was speaking to a couple of days ago, he told me to check out the film on TV, Harriet. I didn't want to look at it in the beginning when it first came out, because I thought it was going to be a lot of, fluff, and I thought it was gonna be like Disneyland or something like that. But anyway, he was telling me that it had a lot of the history of Philadelphia in it, because he said he thought it was gonna be like that too, so he didn't really check it out. So I checked it out, and they had William Stills in the film, and they were talking about, now these were Black elites. They were living very well, and they were conducting these underground railroads. They were risking their lives, their property, that whole community, had they got caught doing what they were doing. They were giving freedom to African Americans that they didn't even know. These weren't even their relatives. They didn't even know these people that were passing through. And they were risking everything to give them freedom. Plus, they would come in there, barefooted, no coats or whatever, hungry. They would even teach them to read. It's really amazing what they did. And this is one of William Still's journals, where he took names of everybody that passed through the Underground Railroad. And this is Harriet Tubman's name. In December 24th, I think, 29th, 1854. And this document is here in this building that we're in right now. And then also there are these caricatures that came out of England, and they were making fun of I guess the Black life in Philadelphia, how the people were dressing. They could afford to dress that way. Not only could they afford to dress that way, they could afford to live the way that they lived. But when all along, the negative caricatures of Black elites in Philadelphia, when all along they were secretly freeing Africans from bondage, building schools and businesses, aiding the needy, etc. So who got the last laugh? So, and then I went to visit the Eden Cemetery, because the documents were stating where everybody is laid to rest. So I wanted to go and pay my respects. And so this is the caretaker at the cemetery. I just had to photograph her hair. And I thought a Senegalese woman did her hair, and she told me an African-American woman did her hair. So I said, oh, that's the real African-Americans. I've never really seen anything like that before. But anyway, this is James Fortin's tombstone, his resting place. And I went out there, and, when I went out there, the caretakers, they will act like, they will point out and so is over here, and Marian Anderson is over there. And James Fortin is right next to William Stills and his family. But I had to go out there and just kind of walk around. This is an African-American graveyard, and it's very beautifully well kept, but the history that's in there is amazing. And this is some of my trees. I call this trees from a visionary's perspective. Like, a lot of these people, when they were doing and going and traveling or running or whatever, they were always in the forest and amongst these trees. And you kind of start visualizing hosts and stuff, and kind of the comforters within the woods and stuff. So I'll just let you check these images of the trees out as I go through. But these trees are from the trees in Central Park in New York, which was an African-American community. And they got put out of the community, put out of the park. And the trees, to me, kind of still tell a story. But I like to go in the park around this time of the year when the leaves are gone, because I could just see You know, it's like these are living fibers, and they move every year. You know, the branches growing, or they're curving, or sometimes they'll fall off, or they'll start growing warts, but they change pretty much every year. And I haven't been in the park for a long time to photograph, but I just love going. I didn't touch this with Photoshop or anything, but I said somebody's buried at the bottom of this tree. So this is images, and I wanted to take them in black and white. I've converted them from color to black and white because I just like the way the black and white comes out, but I just like the aesthetic and the silhouettes of the line. It's a good exercise for the eye too, just to capture these different branches, how they're moving and composed and twisting and turning. And this, I am so indebted to this group of women, the 1838 Black Metropolis. The is a historical project of the radical Black elite of Philadelphia, founded by President Morgan Lloyd and Director of Public History and Education, Michiko Quinones. Please visit their website for ongoing tutorials and historical updates. They are constantly giving walking tours in Philadelphia if you're in Philadelphia. They're always in the archives discovering vital facts for the restoration of the African American future. Um, they, uh, you have to be regularly connected up to their Instagram, their website, because every day they're always, well, not every day, but every day, because I'm not on the Instagram all the time, but I'm always seeing things that like really enhance my practice, you know, what I'm doing as far as the material culture for health and well-being. And it's really nice that they're active and young and doing this work, this very important work. And another group is an artistic multidisciplinary collaboration between Philadelphia's Kamei Ayawa, and she's a musician, an amazing musician, and she goes by More Mother, and Rashida Phillips, who are exploring and experimenting quantum futurism, time, and Black people, they're constantly doing online workshops and just experimenting and exploring and researching. They do a lot of their research here at the Historical Society also, and it's good to be alive with these two projects going on because they really enhance what I'm doing, and I hope I enhance what they're doing. But pretty much that is the end of my presentation.
Xenobia, thank you so much for an inspirational talk. Your slides are amazing. Your career is amazing. You have given us such a wonderful gift this evening. We are going to conclude the webinar at this point, and we're going to invite everybody in the room downstairs for some refreshments and a chance to visit with Xenobia and a chance to give her an opportunity to catch her breath and a little refreshment. So we have stairs this way, we have elevators this way. Before we do that, I just also want to acknowledge that in addition to our very wonderful synergistic partnership with the Association for Public Art, this project, this partnership, and the celebration of women artists is being co-promoted with Refocus, a citywide festival of over 50 projects throughout the cultural community. And the founders and developers of that project, Judy Brodsky, Ferris Olin, Diane Burko, and Marcia Moss are here with us. So let's thank them for the work that they're doing in the communities. And a big round of applause for Xenobia.
I have buttons that have crochet pieces from the Hudson Yards piece that I want to give to everybody.
Wow. That's amazing, Xenobia. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Justina Barrett and Selena Bemak, and others throughout the room, and the APA staff, Susan Myers, who put together the exhibition, Krishana, everybody else from APA. So thank you, Krishana and Susan and Charlotte. And let's go have some refreshments, okay?